Please do not dirty that book. So anyways, you guys, yesterday I received a call from someone named Alexandra from Ascension, who is supposedly a client advocate. So I'm trying to come up with reasons to be thankful since it's Thanksgiving. She said that she definitely has doctors at St. Joe's, which is near where we are. As you guys know, Xavier's father lives in the Gold Coast, and that was my last place of residence. And it was temporary. It was about a month we were there. Prior to that, it was 2037 West Roscoe and Roscoe Village. So I have no way to receive any donations. People have been sending me maternity clothes, makeup, all sorts of things. They never reach me. Whoever is in that apartment is stealing them, which I've also filed police reports about. The same people who are doing that also stole my bin from in front of Xavier's father's house with my laptop on it, all my clothing, my makeup, all of my things, my yoga mat, my production equipment, and that was a year ago. I want to know how I continue to go live with all of this information where I'm presenting facts of abuse, facts of rape, facts of robbery, and they just keep up, the list just keeps growing. You know, nothing, they're never addressed. Where are the police? Are the police out of business? If the police are out of business, where are the feds? Are the feds out of business? Right? So what really is the situation in the United States of America? And I don't think I'm wrong for asking that. I think I'm absolutely right to be openly and honestly asking this question. And some of us, as I read on a sign the other day, cannot afford to be silent. For some of us, for some of you, you're thinking, oh, if I enjoy the quality of my life, I better just be quiet and sit with this information. Well, what about for everyone who your silence is forcing into oppression? What about them? What about when you're the one sitting in oppression? If you don't have basic morals and values, I think that Thanksgiving is a phenomenal day to really examine yourself and be honest with yourself. What are you thankful for? Do you deserve it? And are you living your lifestyle in a way that's congruent with your own success as well as the success of others? I know for a fact that I am. So with all of these unanswered questions, with all of these solutions that I've presented for all of these situations, including poverty at a grand scale, why is there no action being taken? And why is there no direct communication? And what is the correlation between all of this that I'm living now and the supposed preparation from being at Tranquility Bay in Jamaica for all of those months? There are just so many issues. As I said, Xavier and I woke up this morning planning to go and intending to go to the Thanksgiving Day Parade downtown Chicago. We came down here and there was nothing going on. We arrived about an hour late, about 10 a.m. The live entertainment was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m. It didn't begin until a little after that, supposedly, and then it was supposed to go through 9. At 9, the parade was supposed to begin and go through about noon. As I said, we are just on the other side of the river, and there's maybe 5 people outside, on every block. This is so abnormal for Chicago, and I just have to question, is this an economy issue? Is this an issue of heating and cooling, if you know what I mean? Is this an issue of my own, where I am being intentionally put into situations that I cannot decipher? Meaning, is this real? Is this normal? Is this pre-planned or curated? Have you guys ever heard of a flash mob or a flash dance? Just as easily as they create those, they can create the opposite of those. They can create the illusion of abandonment. And I've dealt with that numerous times. And it's been really scary and really wild. So I guess my question is, on a day like today, where I look back and think of how grateful I've been, and how, even though I never really got to see my family on a regular basis because I lived in Chicago and they lived scattered throughout, north and west suburbs, I saw them on holidays, which was not enough. but I am grateful that I was able to. As I said 4 years ago, the very first Thanksgiving I spent here at the Gwen, a friend of mine, Sammy Habibi, he had nowhere to go on Thanksgiving, and he drove me in his Suburban with my children from here at the Gwen to my grandma's house in Palatine. And he had a meal with us, and he kind of got a behind-the-scenes look into my family and what was going on at that time. And that was the last time I got to see my family for a holiday. Ironically, 4 months after that is when Dylan was released from prison. So when you try to say that there's no correlation between my life destructing and Dylan, it's impossible to say that, because everything that began to happen in my life began with his release. I had never been in a fist fight, so much as a fist fight, prior to 2019. In 2019, I was jumped and stabbed. My home was intentionally flooded twice. My belongings were stolen out of my home. I had to move. I was bullied out of my home, where I lived legally. And every time I'd go to law enforcement, they just would do nothing. So as you begin to voice your suffering in a way that forces people to pay attention, people have a way of negating your experience by making allegations against you, or saying that you are seeing things or hearing things that don't really exist. Be careful with that. Be very careful with that. Be grateful, for what you have, but be very, very careful in settling what we allow and get used to. What we tolerate becomes the normal. As you sit in a space and you notice the way that you're treated, you're respected or you're not, you're ignored or you're embraced, you're made fun of and ridiculed, or you're loved and validated. Move from the spaces or take action in the spaces where you are not validated in your most basic being, which is bare minimum basic amounts of respect that every single life form is deserving of. The more we ignore them, the more that we pretend like everything is fine, the more we create and set new standards for what fine looks like. If I decided ever to stop talking about what was going on with me, the message that I'm sending the universe is that I'm okay with being held in a tent against my will and all of the other oppressive measures that have been done unto me, which I am not. So I will continue to discuss it publicly until a resolution has been reached. And that goes the same with anything. If you're in an abusive relationship, if it's a friendship, whatever it is, the more you tolerate, the more normal it becomes. And you train others how to treat you. Xavier does certain things in a relationship because he knows that I value monogamy and a traditional gender role. So if you're in a relationship with someone for 16 months and they understand that you value monogamy and traditional gender roles, they have the information that they need to treat you how you want to be treated, to treat you in a way that's in line with your moral and ethical standing. When arguments become an issue, or when disruption begins, it's because one or both parties is taking the expectation that has been clearly communicated. Because if the expectation hasn't been accepted or tolerated, then there's no arguing. There's just disagreeing. Like, hey, you're not going to treat me like that. It's not that way. Once the expectation has been communicated and you know how the person expects to be treated, and you wake up one morning treating them completely different, again, something is going on with that. Is the person rolling on you because they're being incentivized financially to do so? Is the person rolling on you because someone has honeypotted them sexually? Is the person rolling on you because they're being extorted sexually? The whole psyop that I refer to as the evil game, that is a group of men who had no choice in many cases but to engage in illicit sexual contact with men who were mostly straight, to use for extortive purposes. And that's the flip side of the honeypot. So the federal government employs the use of honeypots, which means they will find someone who looks good, sounds good, acts good, talks good, and they'll send them in towards their target. And once they gain the affection of that person, they princess them. So then they make them think that they agree with everything they say, that they share the same opinions, and that they, are on their side. Doing so only disarms the victim. Doing so only makes the victim believe in a fake sense of trust and expose themselves for who they think the other person wants them to be. But that's not what's communicated in a courtroom. What's communicated in a courtroom is the person supposedly exposing themselves for who they truly are. It's not that way. The only way you could see who a person truly is if you observe them with no external influence, with no external coercion. That's the only reliable way to ever know who someone truly is. What does someone do when there is no one watching, when there is no one else around? When you add in that antagonist, you're losing your case, period. Now you have a coerced, influenced, persuaded, or any other number of, colorful vocabulary that we could use to fill in the blanks there. And you're looking at exonerations that are probably not deserved. There are a lot of deserved exonerations, a lot of them. And I'm super grateful that I was given a voice and the opportunity to speak on a lot of this stuff, because we are treating everyone the same when we are not the same. Equality to me does not mean we are all the same. Equality means we're all deserving of the same. We all deserve the same basic baseline for human treatment. We all deserve indoor housing. We all deserve showers. We all deserve food. We all deserve families. We all have the right to procreate. We all have the right to keep our bodies and homes clean. We all have these rights. When those simple rights are taken away, there is no baseline. Now we have a society where any treatment is acceptable, and the laws don't matter in place of ethics, in my opinion. If you cannot find a way to work ethically and legally together, then you have no partnership, and you have no, society. You have nothing. You have to find a way to make the laws work with the ethics. Now, why is this important? Because when we're talking exonerations, we're using the term equality to our benefit. We're saying, well, you want everything to be equal, and that's one of the biggest arguments they throw in their face in such a condescending way. It's patronizing. Oh, well, you want everything to be equal? Well, yeah. Then give me the same access to the $10,000 an hour lawyer that you have that got you off your criminal charges. And now we can talk about equality. How many people are sitting in prison either for crimes they didn't commit, crimes they committed as a result of oppression, setups, or because they couldn't afford good legal counsel? So we're designing a society where recidivism is the only option for a good majority of us. How many men and women come out of prison to nothing and no one? And so the only option they have to meet their needs is to reoffend. We are profiting, and this Thanksgiving, as I said, I have to be grateful for my voice. We are creating a construct of society where we are more and more tolerant of blatant disregard for morals in place of laws. Blatant disregard for ethics in place of laws. So maybe it's time to reinterpret our Constitution. And maybe it's time to reinterpret, life as it stands in the 23rd century. Is this the 23rd century? 21st century. Because, as I said before, we all have video cameras in our hands now. We can all prove our innocence in most cases if you look hard enough. If you, even the poorest of individuals with an electronic device, can protect themselves, where do you go and what do you do? It's probably pretty difficult for a person with no home to remember where they slept or didn't sleep on any given date, right? That's not what the state's attorney says when they're questioning them. They say, oh, so you mean to tell me that conveniently on Wednesday you don't know where you slept? And the jury, being a group of people who probably have never dealt with homelessness before, they think in their minds, yeah, the state's attorney is right. The guy must be a liar. How does he not know where he slept? Well, guess what? There's a whole other side of America. Get familiar with it. Get familiar with it. And that's what the internet is doing. And that's what social media is doing. And what's happening is that the people are forced to engage with one of two paths. Everyone tries to ignore it at first. Everyone. Because they speak on it in a way that is...
authoritative. Not
authoritative. It's faking concern. Condescending would be a good word for it. They go to these rallies. It's like the one photo I took that I believe is one of the best shots I've ever taken. There's a young lady with a big afro of hair. She was probably mixed, maybe white, maybe Hispanic, and she was hanging out of a car window during the BLM protests. And she had a sign that said, "Dismantle these oppressive systems." And what really, does that girl know about these oppressive systems? Has she ever spent a night outside? Probably not. Probably not. She's riding around in a Lexus or a Mercedes or, some car.
It's one of the best photographs.
Her and her 2 or 3 girlfriends, and they're just, they're out for the protest, and they're out here kind of spreading apart this message that they don't know how to understand.
It's one of the best pieces of documentation of the time.
Not just, the photo?
Yeah, not just of your film, or not of your photography. It's one of the best documented photos of that period.
Thank you. It's a really good photo. I'm really proud of myself for taking it. That is one of maybe 20 that will be in my coffee table book. So that's really exciting. I'm very, very excited, as I said, to share that with you all coming up here soon. I expect it to be, if you guys saw the GoPro solo production page, I pulled a Dolly Parton coffee table book from the shelves at Target yesterday. And the size of the book, along with the thickness of the book, was about 324 pages, really high quality. And the combination of her digital photograph, photography mixed with props, mixed with blog pieces, mixed with title statement style font and phrases, and then paragraphs of elaboration is exactly where I'm going with this idea for the coffee table book. It is exactly where I'm going. And there are a lot of photos from Black Lives Matter that I personally experienced, witnessed, and walked down the street taking these photos. And that's one of numerous social justice issues that I discuss, or that I use visuals to evoke thought. And it's not just Black Lives Matter. There's a lot about classism. Pardon me. There's a lot about classism. There's a lot about elitism. There's a lot about both unethical and ethical versus legal and illegal opportunity. And all of this is depicted in, and then there's the funner stuff where it's just, part of my series is Beauty is in Contrast. And there are many photos I've taken, myself as the medium, as well as just whatever environment I'm in, my surroundings as the medium, that explain what I mean by that without using any words. And I love doing that as well. I love to write. I've been writing song lyrics, verses, choruses, poems, phrases, metaphors, blog posts, short stories, and I'm 424 pages into my very own novel. I've attended writing seminars. So the coffee table book is a collaboration of all my greatest ideas, revised and married together with
in the form of a book.
Other mediums that I've personally created or been involved in to form a collection of the times. There's stuff about Bitcoin, Ethereum. There's stuff about how reasonable it is, especially with social media and the advances we have in communication at our fingertips, how plausible and realistic it is that we would have a society that didn't rely on money, cash money anymore. a society where we incentivize people for good behavior. What is good behavior? Instead of having a prison system that lets people out into a dangerous world for acting right, how about we just reward them for existing and not creating violence? How about we just reward them for existing and pursuing their hobbies and passions? How about that? And that is through Operation, as I refer to it, Kill Bill, and the evolution of digital currency. And I look forward to, others getting involved in that idea. And I know that that's been going on for, a very long time. So I'm excited for this book to come out, and I'm thankful, that I have been able to work on that. But everything else, you guys, is not good. And that's the main part that always jumps into my mind. It's like, how do you remain positive when your three most important people, your children who you've birthed out of your birthing canal, are being kept away from you? How do you remain positive when you don't know where you're going to sleep at night sometimes, most of the time? How do you remain positive when you wake up either to the intentional illusion of sexual assault having occurred or real sexual assault having occurred? What do I mean by that? Different things, pain in different areas, markings and strategic placement of bruising and other things. There are a lot of things, and I've documented them thoroughly. But as I always say, this is to document, to remember where I was, where I've been, where I'm going. I do believe there needs to be a criminal justice system, just not an oppressive one that people's innocent relies on hundreds of thousands of dollars or access to such funding. I do believe that we should have, and again, in the absence of poverty, you don't have any of these issues with criminal justice. If no one can be incentivized to fight for someone's innocence with the incentive of money, then innocence becomes the only incentive, or the only innocence becomes, you can't call someone guilty when they're innocent if you can't pay. Okay, how do I say this? If there is no one whose child's college fund relies on your innocence, they're not incentivized to prove your innocence by any means necessary. And when we remove the financial necessity behind the state of Illinois, and then following that, the ego. How many state's attorneys do you know that are walking around, and lawyers that are walking around bragging? I've won 780 convictions this year. And I've put 800 bad guys behind bars. That's ego, That's their fucking big mind. We don't want people going to prison and your conviction rate high if those people are innocent. If you're working with a lawyer who costs $40,000 an hour, and that's one end of the argument, and the other end of the argument is someone with a public defender, what do you think? You think the public defender is going to be employing hit teams or hackers? No. To protect their client? Absolutely not. But the $40,000 client an hour, you think that lawyer is going to be doing anything to retain that business? Absolutely they are. Which means putting a gun in someone's hand and saying take someone's life. Which means, and all of these things. So when you remove money, when that $40,000 an hour becomes accessible to the person living in poverty, and the public defender begins protecting the person who has been historically able to pay $40,000 an hour for their defense, the tables turn. The world flips, and not in a good way. Not in a good way always. Just because someone didn't do a crime that they're being convicted of doesn't mean that they need to flip their social standing. They don't probably have the experience to handle it. They probably are not going to be an asset to that same group. So there's a lot of it that comes into play. But at the very, very least, I just need to have an understanding of how it could be possible for the past 4 years of my life to go by with so much victimization and so little involvement and communication from any authority. And that's kind of, it, and it's never going to go away. I have 3 children. My responsibility is to them and only them. And when you're standing in my way of feeding my kids, of clothing my children, of, putting them to bed each night, what more do you want me to talk about? So it's Thanksgiving, and luckily we've had access to electricity. We've been using blow dryers to stay warm because I'm a borderline anemic person. My fingertips and my toes get so cold that I literally will cry in pain. In addition to that, my hips and my tailbone are in so much pain. Anyone who knows me knows that I have a history of intolerance to ibuprofen and acetaminophen. I could take it once, but if I get into 2-3 times taking it or alternating, I get very, very sick to my stomach. So I smoke pot for my pain. I smoke pot for my anxiety. That in itself is a problem for all of these people. They are eagerly seeking any reason to dislike me or justify their behaviors and actions that have led to my current situation and state of affairs. And there just aren't any. I'm not a drug user. I'm not a disrespectful woman. I'm not incompetent. I'm not, incapable of speaking or communicating. I'm not incapable of walking around, talking. I have use of my feet, my arms, my eyes, my ears. What is it that's keeping me out here? And what's more, what is it that is preventing communication and understanding of this situation to people who do have the authority and funding to do something about it? So last time I checked, censorship in the United States of America was still illegal, meaning you could not block someone's live feed. You could not block someone's Instagram. You could not block someone's Facebook account. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that they pick and choose who they want to give reach to, and that whether you pay for ads or not, if the information you're sharing is going to make certain powerful parties unhappy, you're censored, and all of this goes together. So Xavier has a button and an antenna. I'll show you guys later. I would never make that up, meaning he is probably a low jack of some kind. I know that sounds crazy, but 2 metal holes right here, right above his heart, and he has another one in his leg.
Which pretty much confirms that I've been on their radar for quite some time.
They have, I know for a fact, just through observation, that they have included him in many, many, many psyops. When I found Xavier, when he found me and he said, Jehovah sent me to you to protect you and make sure no one raped you, you'll never spend another night outside. He knew my story and what had been going on with the reality show and the abusiveness and everything, the kids and everything. And I observed him in his home and the mess that surrounded him and the chaos that filled his mind. And it became clear to me that someone, was using him for something. And that they most likely wanted me, to share with them what that was. And I don't know. I truly don't know. But it's definitely something, and there's definitely something there. He has 2 metal, I don't know what. I have one too. A lot of people who have them, I call them lines in. They disguise them to look as skin tags. And the ones that you could kind of feel, the ones that are super stiff and erect, you could feel the line in. What is that for? What are we being used for without giving our permission? And that's a real question. Xavier worries about the 5G towers and the effects of AI long-term on society. I'm just trying to get home to my kids. So that's what's on my mind today and every day. There's nothing new here. Super grateful for this meal. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone involved and everyone not involved. If you're not celebrating Thanksgiving today, whenever you decide to, happy Thanksgiving, and keep praying for me and my family, and I will do the same for yours. You guys have, I love holidays. Holidays are definitely my thing. Again, you guys are getting this. You guys are getting a live stream of the comments, correct? And matching them to the same UDIDs and coordinates. please, 4 years is way too much, and I've not given my permission. I don't want to be involved in this. So yes, I do want all of them criminally prosecuted, if not at the very least questioned as to what gave them, the audacity. And that's a genuine, curiosity. So, I mean, look at that. That's not antagonistic. Your name is Yoga Toes. Like, yuck. Just yuck. Why are you here? This is my my page.
Intellectual property. Where
I document crimes being taken against me. If you're here in the comments saying that what I'm saying is a lie, not only are you slandering and libeling me and my business and my reputation, you're also making it so that law enforcement and authorities have to question whether or not they can take the information I'm sharing as serious or not. So that's a direct involvement in what I call diluting any sort of investigation that may have ever been being conducted, if there's any hope for the future. So there's nothing wrong here other than exactly what's been wrong since I was unlawfully thrown out of my home following the release of Dylan Smith from the Illinois Department of Corrections. That's inmate number Y12173, and that was in May of 2019. Happy Thanksgiving, you guys.